So before I start my story tonight, I just want to start by saying that I know a lot of people who think that to be a Christian, that you have to be brought up in a Christian home and have been taken to church every Sunday since you were born. But I just want to say that my story shows that this isn't always the case. So I didn't grow up in a Christian household. My grandparents went to church, and because of this, I went to the kids' clubs and youth groups. But I hardly ever attended church on Sunday. From these clubs, I knew a little bit about the Bible from the stories I was told. And if people asked, I would always say that I believed Jesus was real, but it didn't really mean anything to me. It was just something I thought was true. And then I started going to EMW camps when I was 10 years old and absolutely loved them. The games, the friendships, and just the chance to be away somewhere different for a week. But the talks and messages were just something that I had to sit and listen to until we could just do fun things again. But when I was 13, I went on a camp as I did every year, expecting to have a lot more fun, make new friends, but that was it. And then one evening, the chaplain was given a message and was talking about how Jesus would never abandon you and he would always be there for you. And for the first time, I just couldn't ignore what he was saying. I wanted what he was talking about. After the message was finished, we listened to the song In Christ Alone, which is still one of my favourites, and I'm so glad it was chosen today. But this song helped me realise that I needed Jesus so much more than I thought. He isn't just there to stop me from feeling lonely and to help me through difficulties, but he had taken the penalty for everything that I've ever done wrong. And if I wanted to be with him forever, I had to thank him for that and to say sorry for everything I'd done wrong. So I went to one of the officers and I asked them to pray with me. And that was the first moment I realised how important Jesus was and what being a Christian actually meant. And at that point I decided when I went back home, I'd start going to church on Sundays. But this was much harder to do than I thought. I went to a few different churches around that were close by, but I struggled as there were not many people there my age. And I also didn't have a huge Christian influence at home, so it was very easy for me just to think, oh, I won't go this week. And I was also heavily influenced by school friends who were not Christians, and it made it very easy for me to slip away. And this happened for around 3 years. I would go to camp, come home feeling motivated to go back to church and follow Jesus. But I was then surrounded by non-Christians who did not have the same belief, and it was very easy to slip back into old habits. But looking back, I can see that God was keeping me and with me through it all. Then I started going to Swansea Youth Link on the weekends, where I met loads of other Christians my age, who I could see more regularly than once a year on camp, who encouraged me to find a church. And I was then invited to come here to Libanus, and I've been here for the last 9 years. Now, a lot of people would think that this is a good place to stop when giving their testimony, but a lot more has happened in these last 9 years. There have been good times and bad, but looking back, it's clear to see that God was working through it all. One example of this is I was studying social work in Brighton University, and I thought this was the career that I wanted to go into. But then I ran into some problems on the course towards the end of my second year, and my granddad wasn't well as well, so I decided to move home before I could finish the degree. I tried to apply to carry on my studies in Swansea, but this just couldn't be done, so I just decided to look for a job instead. And this wasn't part of my plan at all, but because of the job I had, I was able to save enough money towards buying a house. I got married in the summer after moving home, and then stayed in this job throughout most of lockdown, which meant I was in a stable position when lots of other people were struggling, and I was very thankful for that. At the time, I could not see why God would allow me to not complete a degree in a job that I really wanted to do, but the effects have been so much better than I thought they could be. It's clear to see that he had a plan. And even through lockdown, when I'm sure lots of you were probably thinking, how on earth could anything good come from that? But for me, there have been so many positives. The main one being, during the free time I had from staying at home and trying to cure the boredom, I was able to develop skills in design, created a website for the church, helped other local charities, and more fun projects like designing invitations for family and friends' weddings, which has now led me to study a degree in graphic design, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. But one thing I want to clarify is that I don't think that God will give you everything you want if you become a Christian. Being a Christian is not about having a life without problems. It's about having Jesus do ring those problems. There are still things I do not understand why God allowed me to go through them. But when I do not understand, I just trust him who knows everything. I know that he has a plan that is better than anything I can think of. And he will guide me through everything, and I just need to trust him. And one verse that came to mind when writing this testimony was Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So if there is one thing you take from my story tonight, I hope that you can see that you need to come to know Jesus for yourselves, and throughout the hardest and difficult times, he will not leave you. You may not understand why certain things have happened or are happening at the moment, but through everything, Jesus has a plan for you and he is with you. Thank you.